Hello, everyone. Welcome back. And in this episode here, Bitcoin in real life, I got more questions. So let's go ahead and answer them. Uh, Mostly Joshua Sherman again. It seems like a fun project to push Bitcoin as a payment method to businesses and organizations. Yes, it does seem fun. Um, and yes, it could be used as a payment method to businesses and organizations. Um, I think there's one issue with it is that other than charities, most businesses and organizations haven't really picked up on that, and I think for a couple reasons. Um, the most obvious would be like, well, if I have money, um, currency of a local currency, why would I buy Bitcoin and then give it to, you know, the retailer or give it to the business or organization? Why don't I just give them my local currency, my fiat currency? And that's always been the crutch. And it's always been the crutch for existing businesses that are already in a part or have been a part of the old world system. And so um, for them, it doesn't make any sense, and I agree with them. It kind of doesn't. Um, unless unless you are unless you're really into Bitcoin. If you're getting into Bitcoin or you're really into Bitcoin and you have a business or organization, then you would probably want to push it. For me, um, I'm trying to build a Bitcoin ecosystem where, as I take the profits, the gains, the money, not really fiat currency, but the value that I've gained through Bitcoin. And I don't know if you've seen my Bitcoin trade episodes, but early on I mentioned that I'm doing everything inside out and backwards. Typically, most people start out, working, and then eventually, being employed, kind of earn a living through a wage or a salary, and then eventually you work to self-employment, and then you become a business owner, then maybe perhaps an entrepreneur, and then you become an investor. Well, uh, I've done it backwards. I've just decided to become an investor, become an entrepreneur, become a business owner, then become self-employed, and then let me start over again. First, you're unemployed. Okay, you don't even work for nobody. You're just there. All right, and then you become employed, self-employed, um, business owner, entrepreneur, investor. Um, I guess I've kind of done that. I'm realizing that I've had it backwards all this time. I should have started out as an investor, then became an entrepreneur, then became a business owner, and then become um self-employed, and then become employed. In other words, you hire yourself. And in some instances, you're self-employed, but the difference between, I think, self-employed and employed is that you don't really hire yourself. Self-employed is basically, you know, you whatever's left over is your money, and then eventually, if when you become, um, let me explain the process again. If you start out as an investor, you just start generating income. You start generating revenue. You start generating profits and gains. You start generating value. And with that value, you can enterprise yourself. Operation Enterprise. I mentioned that in my Bitcoin trade episodes. Um, and once you start becoming enterprising, You can become a business owner in various businesses and various organizations, and then after that, you basically become self-employed because um, you know whatever's left over is yours. And after being self-employed, um, you've grown your businesses or organizations to the point where you can hire yourself in each of those organizations, paying yourself in each of those organizations and businesses your salary. And then you become employed. Eventually, by being employed, you don't really, you're just paying yourself. Eventually, what you become is unemployed. Basically, you've created a world where you no longer have to work, um, although you'll pay yourself. The entities or businesses, organizations that you created, um, you've built it up to the point where it just generates income for you. And eventually, what you can do is just free yourself from all that and become unemployed. See how that works? And all this time, I was doing it the wrong way. I was trying to work myself from unemployment to investor, when really I should start out as an investor, working my way towards unemployment, if that makes sense. And so, as far as your first question, it seems like a fun project to push Bitcoin as a payment method to businesses and organizations. Yes, it is. But what's even more fun, and I think is a lot easier and a better incentive, is if you did that for your own businesses and your own organizations, because you'll be able to capitalize on um, on the money you already made. If you've seen some of my previous episodes and Bitcoin trade episodes, you know that if you use Bitcoin as a payment method, you can merchant process for yourself. So you can actually make money just merchant processing for yourself, and moving money around within each company, just moving merchant processing within each business organization. You can make money off of that. And then on top of that, or I should say, you save money because you no longer need Visa, MasterCard, or any of the other, um, merchant processors. You don't even need Coinbase or BitPay. You really don't even need them. I know they're a Bitcoin company, but you don't even really need them because all you need is Bitcoin itself. And then from there, you can actually merchant process for yourself and make money just merchant processing for yourself. Um, and what else can you do? You can also set the price. So not only do you save money by not using Visa, MasterCard, or any other merchant processor, so you save money, and then on top of that, you make money by charging yourself. Kind of ironic, but it all comes out eventually by the consumer, of course. But my point is, you can charge yourself and save money with merchant processing. So there's that, and also you set the price of what you want to buy Bitcoins and what you want to sell Bitcoins for. So it's more fun if you uh, push Bitcoin as a payment method for your own businesses and your own organization. And why wouldn't you? Because you really into Bitcoin. You really believe in the use of Bitcoin. And then you also see the financial benefits of using Bitcoin. And there's also a lot of other benefits too, but that's, as far as your comment there, that's what I'll go into. And then your other comment was, so I want in. I just don't think I can invest all the time required to gain as much knowledge. So I want to link with someone, and I want to link with someone. Are there networking outlets you'd recommend? Um, no, I don't actually. It's in my experience, um, I think networking is great if you just want to meet people. I think networking is horrible if you're trying to create a business relationship and all that. If you have a genuine interest in meeting people, um, I think you can just network out in the streets. You can network with people around you. It doesn't take that much effort to really network per se. As far as I think the way you're saying it, like meeting people, getting to know people, um, networking. Oh goodness, someone's calling me right now. Anyways, I'm just gonna ignore this person. Um, excuse me, I just got this horrible cough here. It's been haunting me the last couple days. Um, if you were going to network, try some of the Bitcoin meetups or some of the Bitcoin centers or embassy. Um, Me personally, uh, I, if I'd rather network, I don't know. If I was gonna network, I would just network to meet people, other people that are interesting. Um, I think you'll have more fun doing it that way. Okay, and then let me see. Uh, I guess you say you want, so I want in. I just don't think I can invest all the time required to gain as much knowledge. As much knowledge. Well, if you've seen my videos, um, that's all I had was time. And what you put in is what you get out. Um, when I started using Bitcoin, you know, I I was unemployed at the time, and I had a lot of time, and it was hard for me to find employment, which I'm actually glad I never did, because if I did, I'd be my former self, just older, not getting anywhere in life and not doing anything. Okay, so, but as far as recommend, I don't really recommend anything as far as networking outlets. If anything, you can go to different meetups. Doesn't have to be necessarily Bitcoin meetups, but I would do it just because you're interested in meeting other people, not for any political gain, financial gain, or social gain or anything like that. Just because you want to. And then your last question or your last statement was, I'm assuming you're saying thanks. Thanks for the videos. This one especially, I did mean mining. I'm I opting out of mainstream system is what leads me to research Bitcoin. Now I'm actually considering the investment options. I don't see how a Bitcoin is like a stock, where if I purchase 10 Bitcoin valued at X US dollars, how does Bitcoin go up in order for me to maximize on a Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin is like a stock, because I don't do chart analysis anymore, but let's just go to a chart, and there you go. And I still trade, and it's similar to a stock, similar to forex currency trading, and the only difference is, unlike other stocks or currency, which I've traded forex and I've traded stocks. If I bought uh, Starbucks stock, I can't take that stock and go to Starbucks and say, "Hey, I'd like to buy coffee with your stock." I like to, you know, redeem it. Um, in my opinion, I think you never really own any of those stocks. It's actually handled through the broker. It's, you know, handled by the broker. Um, Everything is done through the broker nowadays. Um, and you don't really own any of it. You just pushing buttons. Same thing with Forex. You don't own, $1 million worth of euros or US dollars. You're just trading with your $100 or you're leveraged trading with your 100 or $1,000 to buy 10,000, 100,000 or $1 million of whatever currency and moving in price between those two. You know, fractional pennies are being moved. That's why you have to buy like millions and millions of dollars um, to make a difference in a gain or loss. But I never receive any euro. I don't receive any pounds, sterling pounds, or Aussie dollars or Canadian dollars. Again, I'm literally in a video game, and the video game is rigged to where you lose. Um, at the end of the day, what do you cash out in? You cash out in your local currency, which is wired to your bank. Which if you bought 1 million euros, you're not going to get 1 million euros show up at your front door. So that's the major difference between stock markets and exchange markets, even commodities. Um, when people buy gold on these uh, different exchanges, no gold is showing up at your front door, you know. And Bitcoin, very, very different. When I buy Bitcoin on these exchanges and then I send it out to my wallet, I get Bitcoin and I get to sell that Bitcoin out in the real world or use it. You could buy coffee. So apparently, you could buy Starbucks coffee for a certain percentage of discount. You can actually trade your Bitcoin for goods and services. You can, you know, um, what else can you do with Bitcoin? Well, you can do a lot with Bitcoin, but my point is that even though Bitcoins aren't physically real, it's more real than stocks, forex currency trading, and commodity trading. It's more real than that because um, when I want oil, I really want to buy oil. I don't want to buy a piece of paper saying I own X amount of oil, or I don't want to buy a piece of paper that says I own X amount of ounces of gold or silver or platinum or whatever else. I actually want to own those things, but those things are physical and they have physical limitations. Whereas Bitcoin was never physical to begin with, it is virtual, and yet I am able to control it, possess it, do with it as I want to. I mean, all you do really do is send and receive it, but the point is that you can freely send and receive it to another person, with each other, without any limitations or restrictions. So that's the major difference. So let me just go back to that. I don't want to get too much into uh, into the chart, but how is it like a stock? Well, here's your market depth, and people move the price by buying it or by selling it, just like any other market exchange. So in that sense, it is like it, but at the same time, it's nothing like those markets. So let's go back to this again, and let's see here. It says I did mean mining, of course. I'm opting out of mainstream system. Um, well, the ironic thing is, in my opinion, um, I think eventually Bitcoin will become a mainstream system. So I wouldn't say you're opting out of mainstream system. I think you're opting out of the current system, and you're and you're choosing another system. It's just that one system seems to be heavily um, uh, adopted right now, not because it's a better system or it's more efficient system or anything like that. It's because you're being forced to use the system for no other reason than that. You are just being forced against your will to be a part of this. And if you're opting out, what you're really doing is you're just opting out of being a part of this system that you are being forced. Because before Bitcoin came around, as far as I'm concerned, you didn't have a choice. You were forced into it, and basically, in a lot of ways, you were enslaved into it. You were born into slavery. And now that Bitcoin has come into creation, you now have a way out of slavery. You're uh, out of uh, a system that forces you to use that system. So, and then what led me to research Bitcoin? That's what led you to researching Bitcoin. Very good. And now I'm considering the investment options. I just don't see how Bitcoin is like a stock. Okay, if I were to purchase 10 Bitcoins valued at X dollars, how does Bitcoin go up in order for me to maximize on a Bitcoin? Well, I kind of told you how it goes up. I mean, people buy Bitcoin driving the price up. And because of the limited amount of Bitcoins and the difficulty of mining Bitcoins, um, that's driving demand. How often it's being used drives the demand, which causes people to try to acquire Bitcoin. But if it's it's kind of weird. More and more Bitcoins are coming out, but at the same time, um, well, more and more Bitcoins have been created since I started, but at the same time, more and more Bitcoins are being used. A lot of things are being a lot of people are starting to use these things, and at a very accelerated rate for whatever they use it for. I use it for trading. I use it to you know transfer value. I use it to I haven't quite yet, but I'm trying to merchant process for myself. I'm using it to uh, pay for goods and services, and also offer goods and services. And I'm just really hitting the tip of the iceberg on this. I mean, I think there's a lot more here at stake uh, than just investing. Although what I've been doing is I'm going inside out, backwards and inside out. I've become an investor and working my way to unemployment. Basically, I'm planning on retiring and never working again. So, let me see here. If I purchase 10 Bitcoins valued at X, how does the Bitcoin price go up in order for me to maximize on a Bitcoin? Well, here's a wonderful thing about Bitcoin, and I guess it depends. Excuse me. I guess it depends when you made your purchase, but by design, Bitcoin by design goes up in value because of the mining, of how mainly because of mining and limited amount of Bitcoins. But more importantly, uh, what drives the price up is not Bitcoin itself or the limited amount. It does contribute, but what really drives the price up is what its counter the how can I say, we we value Bitcoin in US dollars. At least I do in America. If you're in China, it'd be the Chinese money. If you're in Canada, it'd be the Canadian dollar. And Mexico would be peso. Um, uh, Bitcoin itself is still one Bitcoin. If you have 10 Bitcoin, it's still 10 Bitcoin. What's happening really is the value of something else is going down, making your big one Bitcoin seem like it's equal to an X amount of dollar going up. And so if you see the value of Bitcoin going up, Bitcoin value versus a fiat currency is going up. Bitcoin itself is not doing anything. Bitcoin doesn't do jack shit. What's going on is when you're being compared to one thing and another, and all of a sudden, one Bitcoin equals $1 million, 100 million, $1 trillion. What's really happening is the number that's going up in value, well, it's really going down in value, if that makes sense. So the reason why one Bitcoin is equal to X amount of dollars, and it's if you look at the overall trend from zero to current price of, gosh, I'll just go back to the chart again, $419 as of this recording. Well, anyways, you're just gonna have to believe me. $419, $420, I guess, if you want to be, excuse me. Oh, I'm in the wrong thing. Okay. There we go. If you want to be, I lost my train of thought. Sorry. Anyways, my point is, Bitcoin itself doesn't really change. Just the number of Bitcoins come into creation, it just increases up to a certain limit. What's really happening is what Bitcoin's being compared to, that value is going down. So if you're comparing it to the US dollar or to any fiat currency, and the value of Bitcoin's going up, what is really happening is you have a limited supply versus an unlimited supply. So I've said this many times, and I will always continue to say this: Bitcoin will go to infinity, because a limited amount of Bitcoin versus an unlimited amount of money supply, and how that money supply is increased is not, they don't really print more money. The money is being used to generate an increased number in your bank account. So that's what's really happening. And so as long as that computer is allowed to increase in number, although the physical money is really, not increasing in number, the number on that digital computer in, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Chase. If you think about Chase as the largest bank in America, what are they doing? Are they really creating more money? I mean, are they really making more money? No, what they're doing is they're just adding more numbers in a computer at their bank. And what does that do? Well, that basically devalues all your money. And so people who hold on to money, you're losing out. And the only way you can make a gain is to make more money, to keep up with all the more money that's being generated and created, and increasing and accelerating the devaluation of your money again. So people who chase money, you're all a bunch of losers. People who chase money are losers. And the reason why is because you're contributing to the fact that the value of your money is going down, and on top of that, you really are a bunch of losers. You know, you're chasing something that you'll never get. You'll never get wealthy. You'll never be enriched by chasing money. You know, and that's just my opinion. But that's that's what I've come to learn by using Bitcoin. Um, so if you really want to maximize your Bitcoin use, you don't have to do anything. You just have to acquire more Bitcoin. So when I was trading Bitcoin, my point wasn't to make a gain in US dollar per se. It was to make a gain in Bitcoin. Try to acquire as much Bitcoin as I can. And at the time, it seemed like the best way for me to do it was to um, make a gain in US dollars to eventually buy more Bitcoin. So, but eventually was to finally just purchase the amount of Bitcoin that I wanted. And um, you know, right now we're forced into a system that doesn't allow anything else other than, you know, uh, the US dollar here in America, and other countries would be whatever your currency is. And so, but the way to become wealthy and to be enriched and to create value is not to have money, actually. It's or not to have dollars per se. It's to have money to buy other things that will make you wealthy, like Bitcoin or stocks have been away, or um, commodities, or real estate, or everything except, you know, money or cash. You know, so people who chase cash, you're all a bunch of losers, literally. So, anyways, uh, I guess those are my comments to your comments, and my answers to some of your questions. I hope, you know, thank you for watching Joshua Sherman. Feel free to like, dislike, um, leave a comment, or do a video response. Until next time, stay tuned.